Have a Bible, take it and turn to John, the fourth chapter, John chapter 4. Everyone needs a cup. It's different from last night, so this is a paper cup. Take that. If you don't have one of those, hold your hand up as the team comes your way. Everyone needs a pen or something to write with. So if you don't have a pen and a cup, then as the team comes by, then let them know you need one of those, and take it what comes your way, and that will be helpful as we walk through these next moments together. I want to talk to you about worship tonight and what we are really thirsting for in our life. What are you passionate about? On your cup, as we walk through these next moments tonight, I'd like you to take your pen, and as we talk about some of these things, write the things on your cup that you are passionate about, just to make a list of them. The word passion and worship are closely tied. A passion is a strong and barely controllable emotion. What do you have strong emotional ties to? What is the object of your worship? What is the object of your passion? Some people are passionate about some very trivial things. Sports, for example. I love sports. My goal in life was to be a basketball coach, and I like sports. There's one sport I am not passionate about. I don't like soccer. Soccer to me is boring because they play 90 minutes, the score is 1-0 or something, right? And it says I was watching the World Cup with my grandkids who are big into soccer. I mean, how many of you watch your grandkids play soccer? Ever watch your grandkids play soccer? You ever watch 5-year-olds play soccer? It's like an amoeba moving up and down the field, right? Except there's the one kid out there eating dandelions. That's probably your kid, right? And not caring. But even in professional soccer, we're watching the World Cup. I'm watching my grandkids, trying to be involved. And the announcer said, that is the 57th pass. I thought, seriously? That's what we're recording is passes? 57th time he kicked the ball? And anyway, so I'm not a big soccer fan. But whatever your passion is, if it's soccer, write down soccer on your cup. If it's another sport, what sport are you passionate about? Maybe your sport is crocheting. That's fine. Put that down there too, whatever it might have to be. Some of us are passionate about Ohio State football. I can't imagine who that would be. But put that down. You're passionate. Some of us are passionate about our superheroes. And I understand it all, but is it in the world of AC/DC or Marvel? I don't know what it all is, but we're only passionate about the ones that we're concerned about. Do we like Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever? And some of us are really passionate about what you say about those things. Some of us are passionate about our celebrities. Some of you need to write your favorite celebrity down there. Maybe you're passionate about, what's her name? Taylor Swift. How'd you know I was looking for that? Taylor Swift. Okay, right. I didn't say anything, and it just came to your mind, right? Okay, anyway, so put Taylor Swift on your cup, all right? So whatever it is, put down the person, the celebrity, whatever it is. My mom was passionate about the Queen and King of England. I mean, she looked up who was going to be in succession and everything that came out about what was going on in the royal family and who, Margaret was doing this and who, whatever the current girl is, and I don't even know, whatever. And just maybe you need to put the royal family on your cup. Some of us are passionate about our clothes. Does it have the right name on it? Is it a Under Armour or a Nike or a Adidas or whatever it is? And we're just passionate about making sure we have the in clothes, the right clothes, the brand of clothes. Some of us are passionate, all of us, need to put, I don't even have my phone with me, but that's okay. Some of us are passionate about our phone. Put your phone down because put it down, but write it down on the cup because most people are pretty passionate about their phone. I mean, we can't go any place without our phone. I mean, and I remember we were someplace in America, I forget. We went out to eat, and we came back, and I didn't have my phone. And I said, Debbie, I left my phone at the restaurant. So we jumped in the car. We raced back across town. We got in the parking lot. I said, honey, give me your phone. I remember we have this app called Find Your Phone. And so I turned her phone on and put my number in. I said, there it is. It's right. I know it's here. So I went inside. I said to the lady, I know my phone is here. I was in here a while ago, but my wife's got this app, and I know it's here. So I went and looked for it there. Couldn't find it. I said, well, maybe some of the bus people threw it away, went back in the back and looked in the trash, and every place I went, it was like, I know it's right here. I can see it on my phone. And we looked for it for like 15 minutes. And finally the lady said, could it be in your wife's purse? Sure enough, every time I went someplace, it was right there with me because it was in her purse right next to me, right? And anyway, but we're very passionate about our phones, so put that down if it's on your list. Some of us are passionate about video games. Some of us are passionate about our pets. If you have a pet, put that pet's name down, because some of us, there's pet vacations and pet motels and all kinds of stuff, and we're very passionate about taking care of that pet. Some of us are passionate about just all kinds of things that just make no sense to me. Some people are passionate about jogging. Now that makes no sense to me. The trouble with jogging is by the time you realize you're not in shape, it's too far to walk back. And I'm just not, I don't like to jump. I don't like to jog. It makes the ice jump out of my cup. And so I'm not really in the jog. I try to exercise in the morning before my brain figures out what's going on. And sometimes that works. I got up this morning. I jogged about 4 times around the block. And I picked up the block and threw it back in the toy box. But I'm not big into that. And joggers are just strange people. I'm just sorry, but the way they dress, it's just strange. We worship some of these things, and the point is, you become an evangelist of whatever it is you worship. Whatever you worship, you become an evangelist for that thing. I'm going to pick on Luke because he is passionate about Ohio State, and he is an evangelist for Ohio State, and that's not the most important thing in his life, I don't think, but whatever it is. So what it is that you worship, I want you to write those things down in your cup. I was in a meeting some time ago where somebody jotted this. Before Life Action came, I thought my job was the most important thing in my life. My profit and loss binder was the most important book in my life. After our meeting, I realized that my job was an idol that I was putting in front of God and my family. I'd made a commitment to God and my wife that my job would not be the number one priority in my life. Make sure you put your job, whatever it is, on that cup. It's a potential. I'm not saying all these things are your idols. We're just making a list of things that could potentially be an issue, things you're passionate about. Now turn to John chapter 4. John chapter 4. John chapter 4 is a story of the woman at the well. And here Jesus is on his way to Galilee, and he passes through this region of the country called Samaria. This is in verse number 4 of John chapter 4. He came to the city of Samaria called Sychar, near the parcel of ground that Jacob gave his son Joseph. And Jacob's well was there. So Jesus, being wearied from his journey, was sitting by the well. And it was about the 6th hour. That's 12 o'clock. So here comes this woman from Samaria to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." And now, why did this woman come to the well? Well, she was thirsty. She had a need. Even Jesus had a need. He says to her, "I'm thirsty." Now, on your handout, I know this can kind of be confusing, but on your handout, if you want to know when to write something down, if it's underlined, that's what you'll know. That's what you need to fill in. Somebody said it's hard to follow along. So on your handout, the underlined words are the ones that you need to fill in your little thing. And I do that because it makes people pay attention, I think. Anyway, so we worship the things that we think that we need. And if we're going to refuel our worship, we've got to understand this, that the things we think we need are the things that we worship. So are you worshiping the things that we think we need? So I want you to make a list of things that you love, enjoy, and fear losing. This is for your cup now. On your page, you can write it down. It'd be things like people, and they're listed there. So make sure you put down family members. There are some family members that it's not wrong to have family members, but for some of us, we are worshiping that child, that grandchild, that mate. So put down on your cup some people that you really are passionate about. It could be a possession. We talked about it a few moments ago. It could be your house. Put your house down on the cup, because it may be something you worship. You may not, but it's the potential there. Maybe you worship your vehicle. And you're the kind of guy that you're driving down the road, if a leaf falls on it, you stop, pull the leaf off, right? And take care of it. It's not wrong to have clean vehicles, I'm not saying that. But maybe it's too important. It's potentially a passion. Maybe it's your degree. You love to talk about all your degrees. I don't have any degrees, so I have 98.7 or whatever on a bad day, 100 on a bad. No, degree. It's fine to have degrees, but maybe that's too important to you. Maybe it's a clothes or investments or whatever. Maybe it's a place. So make sure your work is there. Maybe there's a place you want to go. Maybe you have a vacation spot. Maybe it's the mall. You love going to the mall? Maybe you should put shopping on your cup. Maybe shopping is something that husbands, don't write that in your wife's cup. You let her write it down, okay? But maybe you should put it as a potential. These are potential things that could be too important. That's all I'm saying. Maybe it's entertainment. Put social media down in your cup. Because some of the things that we do, not necessarily are bad things. I mean, these aren't bad things, unless it's soccer. But these are some things that could be bad. It could be social media, maybe Facebook. Maybe you get up in the morning and you look at your social media before you look at the Bible. Then you better put that on your cup. Because what you're saying is Facebook, Instagram, whatever my Pinterest, whatever it is, my social media is the most important thing because you look at that before you look at Scripture. So it tells what's a priority in your life. You put it down there. It could be movies or video games, and maybe you're just excited about that. And write those things down. Maybe it could be a hobby, hunting or fishing or eating. Some of us, that's a hobby. Crafts or what? You like to go to Hobby Lobby. I understand that. What are those things that could be potential? It could be things. I'm not saying these things are all bad things. For some of you, you need to write down health. Health is a potential idol in your life. I mean, you're so concerned about, I was recently went to a new chiropractor, and I had to fill out this form. And again, I have a problem with sarcasm. And the form asked, the question was, what are your 3 health goals? I said, well, to be healthy. I mean, what do you mean? What's my health goal? I didn't know what they were asking for. So I wrote down, number 1, my first health goal is to die quickly. That was if I'm going to get sick, I want to die. I don't want to go. So that's my health goal, die quickly. My second health goal was to eat whatever I want. Those are my health goals. And he said, well, if you do number 2, you'll get number 1, right? But I have 3 main food groups, salt, sugar, and coffee. Those are my 3 main food groups, right? And so I don't want to die right now, but when I go, I want to go quickly, and I want to eat whatever I want. And sometimes it's just like, recently we went through the Social Security deal, so I had to fill out all these forms about Social Security. And again, just questions. One of the questions was, have you noticed anyone criticizing your driving recently? I put down, I've been married for 40 years. How would I know, right? And then the question was, do you ever have thoughts of suicide? I wrote, not until I started filling out this form. That's what I put down. But it's fine to be healthy. I'm not saying we shouldn't be healthy, but we try to ignore the fact that sometimes we have made these things too important. We ignore the fact that we have a need. We ignore the fact that we have issues. Turn to the person next to you and say to them, I have issues. Tell the person next to you. Okay, we sometimes forget that, all right? We all have issues. Now here's the deal. I've been asked, we've traveled across the country. We've been in almost every state. And I get asked periodically, what do you think the state of the church in America is? And here's my answer. I think as a nation, as a church, we love Jesus. We just don't need Jesus. Because we have so many other things. We sing, oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, yeah, I love Jesus. But we don't need him. Because we have replaced him with a myriad of other things, and we're fine without him. We love him, but we don't really need it. We've got money in the bank. We've got a house. We've got a car. We've got a job. We don't really need Jesus. Sometimes, though, there comes a point in your life where you just get thirsty. And where are you getting that need met? You ever been to a time where you're just really thirsty? Ever been a time where your job is dry? Your marriage is dry. Church is dry. Heard about a couple got up one morning and the husband said to his wife, I'm not going to church today. She said, yes, you are. No, I'm not going. She said, you have to go. I'm not going. He said, tell me one reason why I need to go to church. She said, I'll tell you 2. Number 1, God wants you to. And number 2, you're the pastor. That's never happened in your home, Scott. I'm sure that hasn't happened to you. But sometimes life is just dry. And when you're dry, you're going to find something to quench your thirst. You will worship something. We're all worshipers. It's just that most of us are worshiping the wrong thing. What is the greatest sin in the Bible? Well, we could debate that for a while. Well, some would say, it's murder or, child molestation or whatever. I don't think so. The greatest sin in the Bible is idolatry. Other sins are against man. Idolatry is against God. And here's what an idol is. Idolatry is anything we value or worship more than we value and worship God. That's what idolatry is. Anything you value and worship more than you value and worship God. It's something you can't live without. It's something you have to have. And anything can serve as an idol. A God alternative. Tim Keller calls it a counterfeit God. If you've not read that book by Tim Keller, it's a great book. But a counterfeit God will always disappoint. And the fact is, the greater the good, the more likely we expect that thing can satisfy our deepest need and our hope. An idol is anything that you seek, anything you give to give you what only God can give you. If I could just have this job or this vacation or this car, then my life would have meaning. Anything that becomes more fundamental to your happiness than God is an idol. You can locate your idols in a lot of ways. One, by looking at your daydreams. Write down in your cup, when your mind goes into neutral, what do you think about? Playing professional sports? Laying on a beach someplace? What are you daydreaming about? You can also locate what your idols are by looking at your nightmares. What if you lost it? It would make life no longer worth living. That thing's too important to you. The reason I say that idolatry is the worst sin is in the 10 Commandments, 20% of the 10 Commandments deal with idolatry. 2 of the 10 Commandments. Human history can really be defined as a war between competing belief systems, the true God and idolatry. In the Old Testament, we have the idols of Baal and Moloch and the Egyptian gods, the Greek gods, the Roman gods. There's today the false religions of Islam and Hinduism and Buddhism. There's philosophies of atheism and humanism, materialism and hedonism. John Calvin said that the heart of man is an idol-making factory. That's why 1 John 5:21 says, keep yourselves from idols. The fact is, everything we do is a product of our worship. We're always giving our hearts to worship something. And if it's not God, then it's something that God has created. And sin causes us to look horizontally for what we can only be satisfied if we look vertically. C.S. Lewis put it this way. Lewis said this, if I can't find anything, if I find in myself a desire which no experience on this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is I was made for another world. And the fact is, we are not made for this world. We're created for a new earth, for a new place, a new creation. David said in Psalm 73, whom have I of heaven but you? And there is nothing on earth I desire besides you. Is that you? My flesh and my heart might fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. What is the portion that you need to satisfy your life? We're in Kentucky in a meeting like this. There was a young man in the church. He was one of the best in the world, one of the top 10 in an online video game called Call of Duty. During a meeting just like this, he came and he said, I was just convicted. I give all my life, my time. I don't have time for my wife, my family. I take all my extra money. And he sold all of his equipment. He said, I've got to start spending time with God and with my wife. We're in Georgia in a meeting like this. And a woman during a time like this reaffirmed her commitment to her husband. She said she'd gotten into a Facebook relationship. She had committed digital adultery because she met a person online. Her God was her social media. Listen, we all have this ocean-sized cavern of need in our heart that is barely nourished by the trickle of 1,000 streams. And we're trying to get that met by things they're not going to be able to do that. Okay, back to the story. So here they are. The disciples of verse 8 have gone away to the city to buy food. Therefore, the Samaritan woman said to him, how is it you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, since I am a Samaritan woman? For Jews had no dealings with the Samaritans. Talk about racism. Racism is not new. And there's a big history to this. Back when the nation of Israel was split and they were taken into captivity, they left some group there in Samaria, and they stayed behind to take care, and they intermarried. And so when the Jews returned back, the Samaritans were looked at as half-breeds, and there was just great racial division. They would go out of their way not even to walk through Samaria to get to Jerusalem. And it was just a real hatred. And so the fact that Jesus even talked to this woman was startling to her. And plus that she was a woman, plus she was there in the middle of the day, and that wasn't the time most women went to get that. But because of her other issues, she couldn't come in the morning when the other women came, so she was by herself, a Samaritan woman, and she's just shocked Jesus even talks to her. And Jesus says to her in verse 10, he answered and said to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is who says you give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. To her, living water was flowing. She didn't understand the point. She didn't understand what he was saying. So she says, sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. How are you going to get this living water? He says in verse 12. So she says, are you greater than our father Jacob, the one who gave us this well and drank of it himself, and the sons of his cattle? And Jesus answered and said to her, everyone who drinks this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks the water I will give him will never thirst. All of a sudden, she is going a mile. Wow, I could have a water, though I'd never be thirsty again. She was looking for temporal satisfaction. Did you ever get something you thought you really needed, and you got it and thought, is that all it is? I finally got that promotion. I finally got that car. I finally got that house. I finally got that vacation, and it's done. Is that all there is? The fact is, we worship things that we think we need, and worshiping artificial substitutes do not satisfy. And she had been worshiping artificial substitutes. And so when he said, I've got this water, and you'll never thirst again, the woman says in verse 15, sir, give me this water. I won't be thirsty. I won't have to come to the well and draw. If your hope disappoints you, it's because you've been hoping in the wrong thing. And she's hoping that she can have this water that if she drinks it one time, well, she'll never thirst again. And the fact is, she had been getting her needs met in artificial ways. And so Jesus is going to expose her substitutes. Before he gives her the understanding she needs, he's going to expose what her artificial substitutes are. Now we do the same thing. The things we jotted down in our cup, they're artificial substitutes. My wife is on a special diet because of her cancer, and so we decided not to go through the chemotherapy, radiation. We decided to go kind of a natural route. She had the surgery to remove the cancer, and they got most of it, but there was some remaining, and so she's gone on this. She has not had like red meat for like 2.5 years, and she eats salads and avocados and whatever. But where was I going? Oh yeah, and so she's not supposed to have sugar. And so we looked, okay, what can we do if you don't have sugar? And so there are 3 substitutes that are most known. So we kind of researched these. And the fact is, we found out that the pink ones cause arthritis. Well, she already had arthritis, so that wasn't good. The blue one, they say, sometimes causes cancer. And the yellow one causes memory loss. And so we decided we won't do that. So we'll find something else. But here's the reality. A true need is diluted by artificial substitutes. And so we have a need for God, but the problem is that need for God gets diluted because we are trying to give this artificial substitute, some of the things on this cup that we've put in place of our need for God. And the woman at the well did the same thing. She had some artificial substitutes that she'd put in, and as a result of that, it was a problem. So verse 15, she says, give me a water, so I have to come here. And verse 16, he says, go and call your husband and have him come here. The first thing that she was looking to was relationships. So Jesus says, go call your husband. And the woman said, verse 14, I have no husband. And Jesus said correctly, you say that correctly, I've had no husband. I heard one time where there was a couple that were getting married, and they wanted to have something real romantic on their wedding cake. So they were going to have 1 John 4:18 on their wedding cake. 1 John 4:18, which says there's no, what does it say? Perfect love casts all fear. That was going to be on their wedding cake. Well, the first got knocked off, and all the baker got was John 4:18. So their wedding cake read this: for now you've had 5 husbands, and the one you're now with is not your husband. So you want to make sure you have the right things in front of the verse. Okay, anyway, so Jesus says, yeah, okay, you don't have a husband. In fact, you've had 5 husbands, and you're living with a guy now, and he's not your husband, and that's not right. And so she says, sir, verse 19, I perceive you're a prophet. Wow, Captain Obvious. Yeah, I perceive you're. So he's trying to expose the fact that she is on her cup. She would have to have written bad relationships. She was looking for those things to meet her need. She was worshiping relationships and trying to get them to quench her thirst. A relationship can become an artificial substitute for God. So make sure on your cup you have your husband, your wife, your mom, your dad, a parent, a child, a friend, a pastor, a leader, a Sunday school teacher, someone that you have a relationship with that it's easier for you to run to them before you run to God. What relationship are you passionate about? One you want to have. Maybe you just want to have a wife or want to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, and you're passionate about that. It consumes you sometimes. Write it down. Well, so he exposes the fact that where she is. She says, I perceive you're a prophet, really. And so she tries to change the subject, because that's what we do. When we're confronted with truth, our next step is, okay, let me get my way out of this. She says, sir, verse 20, our fathers worshiped in this mountain. Now, remember, when they had gone and come back to Jerusalem, the Samaritans now, they didn't want their people going to Jerusalem, so they set up their own place of worship. And now the Samaritans said worship here, and the Jews said worship in Jerusalem. So she starts talking to him about the second thing, and that is religion. Because the fact is, when you have a need, you run to something. So she ran to religion because she had to find something to worship. So she says to him in this next verse, our fathers worshiped on this mountain. You people say in Jerusalem is the place you used to worship. So Jesus, rather than saying you're just changing the subject, he answers her question. He says, woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain or in Jerusalem you'll worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. The hour is coming when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Such people the Father seeks to be his worshipers. God is spirit, and those who worship must worship in spirit and in truth. You know, it's amazing. Make sure on your cup you write down your church or religion, because sometimes we worship our church. We worship our religious views. We worship our stances. We worship our theology. Not the person, the God, but the fact of what we know. And so she's in this conversation with him about some theological thing. Now, that wouldn't happen in your church, would it? I mean, like most churches have gone through at some point worship wars, drums or no drums. Is it too loud? Is it too soft? Should we sing hymns? Should we sing choruses? I was reading a book by Francis Chan some time ago, and he said he was in a service, and as people were leaving, when someone came to him, a lady came to him and said, I didn't like the worship this morning. And he said, well, that's okay. We're worshiping you anyway. And the fact is, when you come to church, it's not about you. And if what is being done is honoring God, then you may have different preferences, you may have different likes about different kinds of music or volumes of music or choruses or hymns or whatever it might happen to be. It's not about you. You can just say, is God being honorified? Is God being glorified? Is he being honored? And if not, then you can just say something about it. But if he is, then you need to enjoy the atmosphere that has been created. But a lot of times we worship things. We're worshiping our style of worship. What's that all about? Put that on your cup. So anyway, he goes on. He answers her question. The issue is not the where of worship. It's not the what. It is the who of worship. And those who worship in spirit and in truth. He goes on, and she says this in verse. She tries to change the subject again. He has kind of confronted her, said it's not about the where. So now she feels like her reputation has been attacked. I mean, every time she gives an answer, he corrects her. And so she changes the subject again. So she's going to show him just how smart she is. She says, I know the Messiah is coming. This is almost comical. She's talking to the Messiah. She says to the Messiah, I know Messiah is coming. To the Messiah, she says. Almost comical. He was called Christ. And when that one comes, he'll declare all things to us. And this is the drop the mic moment. And Jesus says, I who speak to you am he. Boom, right? Yeah, when Messiah comes, I am the Messiah. Oh, okay, wow, that makes a lot more sense now, right? And she begins to understand some things. And the problem is for us is when we look at the things that we've been worshiping and realize who we should be worshiping, and when God makes himself known to us, it's like, wow, I've been using all these artificial substitutes when I could actually and should be actually worshiping the God who made all these things, the God of the universe, and I've been worshiping his creations. Our hearts were made to worship. We are going to be worshiped. It's a worship factory. You're worshiping something, and whatever you run to when you're in need reveals the object of your worship. Remember, you can worship. Her focus is on religion. So he addresses that. He deals with the reputation. Ever met somebody who just knows it all? You can't really talk to them because they're so smart. You're not even listening right now because you already know all this. And the problem is it's never moved from your head to your heart. I who speak to you and me. You know what's interesting about this too? This is the first time Jesus has announced that he's the Messiah. He didn't do it with the feeding of the 4,000, the 5,000. He didn't do it, his disciples weren't even around. The first person he gives the greatest news in history to is this Samaritan woman. God's not impressed with crowds. He's not impressed with your position. His words are for the lowest of the low. And he starts, I think it's incredible to know that. Greater worship requires a clearer focus. Her focus was not in the right place. And really the question all of us have to answer is back up in verse 12. When she said this, are you greater than our father Jacob? Yes! Is God greater than all the things you've jotted down in your cup? Yes! Is he greater than all of your idols? Yes! Is he greater than all the artificial substitutes you've been running to? Yes. That's why it's important to list those potential items. We're in Mississippi. A young mother said this, I'm a young mother of 3 children. I'm a homemaker. I realized I had made my children an idol in my life and neglected my marriage. I spent all my time doing for and caring for my children instead of focusing on God and then my husband. God spoke to me about being the encourager and help me to my husband that his word says I should be. I'm committing to spend time in his word regularly and not neglect my marriage any longer. Now, are all the things in our cup bad? No. The good can keep you from the best. Tim Keller said, anything you add to Jesus Christ as a requirement for being happy is an idol, and it will sap you, and it must be removed. So here's some tests. Here's some, and maybe you've already seen all these, maybe you have all these on your cup, but there are things like home, vehicles, business, possessions, are there jewelry, anything else that you need to put down your cup that's a potential item. Are there any people? Make sure you put down all the people on your cup that could potentially be an idol. Food, maybe you need to put food down in your cup because that's what you run to when you're insecure or when you need something. You got to have that hamburger, you got to have that chocolate, whatever it is. Drugs, alcohol, exercise, sex can be a god. Entertainment, all the things we've talked about, hobbies, whatever your hobby might be. Make sure on your cup is any potential passion. Now how would I know, Steve, if these things are really idols of my life? Well, here's the test. So ask yourself these questions. What am I most afraid of losing? What are you most afraid of losing? If it's not, you ought to maybe circle that thing on your cup. What are you most afraid of losing? Maybe you should put down reputation on your cup. Because some of us worship our reputation. And so what we got to make sure we defend ourselves, and anytime we're attacked, make sure everyone knows that we're right. And our reputation has become a god. Make sure you put a dollar sign on your cup because some of us are fearful of losing our security. It's in money. And what's going to happen with the stock market? What's going to happen with my retirement? What's going to happen with that account? And some of us have made a god out of money because that's what we most fear losing. What do I long for and desire most passionately? Make sure you think about that. Make sure that thing is on your cup. What do you desire and long for most passionately? You probably should circle that one. Where do I run for when I want to have comfort, when I need satisfaction? Do I run to God? Do I run to a person? Do I run to an activity? Make sure whatever activity you run to is on your list. Who or what makes you feel most secure? What is it? If I could just be there, have that, enjoy it, that's when I'm going to feel secure. It could be Facebook, could be a friend. What do you brag about? Make sure the thing you brag about is on your cup. Could be your grandkids, could be a place or a position. What is it you brag about? What do you sacrifice the most for? Make sure church is on there. Some of us, we sacrifice for church more than our family. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be in church. You should. Our priorities are wrong someplace. Now, listen, here's the deal. You can say, I enjoy God and 25 other things. But the question is this: is he the center of your universe or just another planet? It's not that all the things in that cup are wrong. But the problem is the center of our universe needs to be him. So here's what I want to ask you to do as we close tonight. I want you to look at all the things you've jotted down. I'm going to take a moment here and let you process this through. And I want you to go to God, and I want you to say, Lord, anything on this list that I've made more important than you, and whatever those things are, I want you to circle them. Because these aren't all bad things. Maybe none of them are bad things. But there have been some things in our life that have become more important to God. And whatever those things are, I want you to circle those things. And what you're saying by circling them is, God, at some point, I've made this an idol in my life. I've made this person, this sport, this event, this whatever might happen to be, worship. And take a few moments just there in your seat and be honest with God and say, God, there's some idols on my cup and it needs to change. I need to change what I do first thing I get up in the morning. I need to change the place I run to. Maybe you need to get rid of some social media accounts. Maybe you need to get rid of some finances. Maybe you need to get rid of some things that you have begun to worship more than God. Maybe you need to change the way you see your family, the way you see your retirement, or the way you see some of these things. You can't get rid of some of these things. You shouldn't. They're good things. But you've put them as a priority before God. So take a moment, walk through your cup, circle the ones that you would have to say have become idols. And here's how I want to close tonight. We're going to make the front of the auditorium here just kind of an altar. And as God prompts your heart, after you've gone through and taken some time to circle all the ones that you'd have to say idols, I want to invite you to come, spend a few moments here. There'll be no formal dismissal. If you're going to talk, make sure you leave the auditorium before you do that. But just take a few moments and come here at the front and say, God, I just want to say to you that these things have been idols, and I'm done with that, and I want that to change. Take a few moments and just empty your cup. Leave it at the altar and just say, God, I'm done with these things. I want you to be the supreme in my life, not these things that are lesser things. And take a few moments to do business with God. And when you're done, you can slip out. We'll see you tomorrow night. Take as much time as you need. Go to the Lord. When you're through, you can come and do business with him here at the altar for a few moments. We'll see you tomorrow night.